Greetings, family, and welcome back to the African Exodus show. I'm your host, Tony Cherie, here to you with a new video. Before we get started with today's segment, I want to remind you, if you have not already and you wish to be connected outside of YouTube, the best way to do so is to add yourself to my Telegram channel. There I post anytime that I upload, and in addition, that's just the easiest place to message me. Also, if there's any videos that are too controversial for YouTube, I will probably just post it there. In addition, if you wish to support this channel, you could also add yourself to my Patreon, where I will upload a weekly exclusive just for you. Both are down in the description and very easy to download. Today we're going to continue on with our teaching on Gog and Magog. We spoke about the prophetic significance of the state of Israel as the first installment in this series. The second installment, we spoke about the land of Gog and Magog according to the book of Jubilees. Where is it located? The book of Jubilees is very specific about where this place is. Today we're going to talk about the prophetic significance of this region and how this region is going to essentially roll into what we know of as the final battle with Gog and Magog. Now, let me tell you all up front, this will be cut down for YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this is not the full version of this video. And I cut out parts that I felt like were controversial because it deals with talking about a group who you may refer to as the untouchables. Some may say the Ish people. You can draw a semblance to what I'm talking about, but it's a group that we are constantly targeted on this particular platform. So for that reason, if you want to see the full version, you could go right to my Telegram. The link again is down inside of the description. So I want to get into the scriptures that we were going to talk about today. We're going to start with a major prophetic book inside of the Bible, Ezekiel, where it talks about Gog and Magog. So we're going to start with Ezekiel 38. It says, "Now the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward Gog of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, This is what Yahuwah Elohim says. Behold, I am against you, Gog and chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around and put hooks into your jaws, and I will bring you out in all your army, horses and horsemen, all of them magnificently dressed, a great contingent with shield and buckler, all of them wielding swords. Persia, Cush, and Put with them, all of them with buckler and helmet. Gomar with all its troops, and Beth Togarmah with the remote parts of the north with all of its troops, many peoples with you." So here we already see right now that Gog and Magog, a major feat with them is that they're going to have not just their own army, but the ability to leverage the armies of the world. What nation in the world has the ability to leverage the nations of the world, the armies of the nations of the world? What have we been seeing recently as far as what nation has the entire ability of any nation in the world to get the entire world on its side, even if the population of the nation said, we don't really care about this, or we don't want to support this? What singular nation has that ability? Now it says, "Be ready and be prepared, you and all your contingents that are assembled around you, and be a guard for them. After many days, you will be summoned in the latter years. You will come into the land that is restored from the sword," okay? "Whose inhabitants have been gathered from many nations to the mountains of Yasharel, which had been a continual place of ruins. But its people were brought out from the nations, and they are living securely, all of them. And you will go up, you will come like a storm, and you will be like a cloud covering the land, you and all your troops and many peoples with you." What is this scripture telling us? Well, in the end, that Gog and Magog is going to rise up against the regathered house of Yasharel. What this means is the children of Yasharel, who are a part of Yahushua HaMashiach, the followers of him, whether they be natural branches or those who are going to be grafted in, they will be gathered by Yahuwah and placed inside of the land. The land, which we know is in East Africa physically, and we know that there's going to be a restoration of the land. That land is where the 12 tribes and also those that are grafted in will be regathered. When this happens, The 12 tribes will not live in peace. A lot of people think that's the end of the story. That is not the end of the story, because you're going to see an enemy nation called Gog of Magog, and that nation is going to use the nations of the world to come against Yah's people. So it says, this is what Yahuwah says. It will come about on that day that thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil plan. And you will say, I will go up against the land of unwalled villages. I will go against those who are at rest, who live securely, all of them living without walls and having no bars or gates, to capture spoils and to seize plunder, to turn your hand against the ruins that are now inhabited, and against the people who are gathered from the nations, who have acquired livestock and goods, who live at the center of the world. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish with all your villages will say to you, have you come to capture spoils? Have you assembled your contingent to seize plunder, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to capture great spoils? Therefore prophesy, son of man, and say to Gog, this is what Yahuwah Elohim says. On that day when my people Israel, Yasharel, are living securely, you will not know it. You will come from your place out of the remote parts of the north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding horses, a large assembly and a mighty army. And you will come against my people Yasharel like a cloud to cover the land. It shall come about in the last days that I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I show myself holy through you before their eyes, Gog. This is what Yahuwah Elohim says. Are you the one of whom I spoke in former days through my servants, the prophets of Yasharel, who prophesied in those days for many years that I would bring you against them? It will come about on that day when God comes against the land of Yasharel, declares Yahuwah Elohim, that my fury will mount up in my anger, in my zeal, and in my blazing wrath. I declare on that day there will certainly be a great earthquake in the land of Yasharel. The fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the animals of the field, all the crawling things that crawl on the earth, and all mankind who are on the face of the earth will shake in my presence, and the mountains will be thrown down. The steep pathways will collapse, and every wall will fall to the ground. I will call for a sword against him on my mountains, declares Yahuwah Elohim. Every man's sword will be against his brother. With plague, with blood, I will enter into judgment with him, and I will rain on him and on his troops and on the many peoples who are with him, a torrential rain, hailstone, fire, and brimstone. So I will prove myself great, show myself holy, and make myself known in the sight of many nations, and they will know that I am Yahuwah. So one more scripture we should go through is Revelations 27 through 9. When 1,000 years are completed, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations which are at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war. The number of them is the sand of the seashore. And they came up on the broad plain of earth and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city, and fire came down from heaven and devoured them. This is a very important part of this prophecy, because it says that Satan is actually the one who is the captain of this entire army. So it is actually him that is calling the shots. And why this is important, because whenever you look at the book of Revelations 2:12 through 13, it says that Pergamum, Turkey, is where the seat of Satan is. So you read that scripture, it says, to the angel of Pergamum write, the one who has the two-edged sword says this, I know where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you hold firmly to my name, and did not deny my faith, even in the days of Antipas. Now, let's just emphasize that. That is where the seat of Satan is, inside of Pergamum. And if you look at where it is on the map, it is inside of the country of Turkey. Now, you might not have a draw semblance between this, but Turkey is also a part of this entire region. So when you consider all of this, the fact that Turkey is also a part of this region, the fact that this is the seat of Satan inside of Gog and Magog, you understand that the nations that will follow Satan to war against Israel, they are being led by the same principality that operates throughout Gog and Magog. In fact, it's believed by many that the Gog aspect is actually a principality, and the Magog Magog is actually the peoples or the nations. So if you look at it like a principality is at work organizing the entire world system against the people of Yasharel, as there has always been a principality at war against Yasharel. When you understand this, you can see that the significance of Gog and Magog is that this is the vehicle through which Satan will not just launch his final battle and assault, but through which the world will be deceived into going after those who are actually the chosen. And I'm very sure the reason why they will be deceived into this is because who does Gog and Magog claim that they are? They claim that they are the chosen. So if you're listening to the people who say they're the chosen, telling you to go after the chosen, then the deception becomes also clear. Now we understand why there has to be this state of Israel. Now we understand why there has to be this changed identity, this misplaced identity, this replacement. We understand why it has to be that way, because otherwise, how else would the nations of the world make the dumbest mistake of all to follow this people into war against the one and only true chosen people who have already been set apart and set aside? So basically, to wrap up this particular series, I'm sure we'll come back to this topic over and over again, but to really wrap it up, the prophetic significance of the state of Israel is this is the state through which Satan will launch his final assault. This is through which he will attack Yah's true chosen people. This is through which he will lay siege or attempt to lay siege to the promised land. And if you're confused about when this happens after the 1,000-year reign. In case you're not familiar, that Yah will regather the children of Yasharel under the authority of Yahusha, who will come to lead Yasharel. And under that, there will be a 1,000-year reign where Yahusha is the head of Yasharel. During this time, basically, Yasharel will have a moment of peace, but Satan will go out and mislead the nations to deceive them to go after the chosen people once again. But how else would they do that other than being led by the people who they're told are the real chosen people? So Satan will go out and deceive the world again. And after this, essentially, that is the end of all evil, because not only is Satan done away with, but also all of the evil of the world is done away with. The world will be renewed. The Yasharel will be restored. A new Yasharel will be restored. There will be a resurrection of all people who have died since that time, and it will be a very beautiful end. But it's important for you to understand that what's happening in the world is all a setup for this final showdown. And the quicker we realize it, the quicker we don't engage in the banter that goes back and forth about and surrounding these people and surrounding that land. The quicker we understand it, the quicker we understand that this is all happening in accordance with Yah's plan. So with that, I thank you all for watching, and Yah willing, I'll see you on the next video.
How you design those programs. In all of the programs that I attended, all of the education that I had, college, public, and otherwise, nobody ever told me that I was an African woman. Nobody ever told me what the history of African people were. Nobody ever told me that America is business, and without business you will have nothing and be nothing. And nobody ever told me how to organize business so that I would be able to develop institutions in my own community. So now the sincerity of all of the programs and all of the education has to be questioned, indicted, and convicted, because the bottom line is that America is not and has never tried to produce African adults who are functional, self-sufficient, who understand their politics, their economics, and their relationship to the world politics and the world economics.
American side with the NAACP, the Urban League, and the traditional We Shall Overcome civil rights leaders of the 50s and 60s that have been all but abandoned and ignored by younger people, Sister Soldier included.
I think that the dice are loaded, and that's what's left out of Mr. Brown's piece. See, there was a period of time in this country after Reconstruction where African people owned a lot of land, owned a lot of businesses, and did a lot of things. But what happened was the American government, the Ku Klux Klan, and other organizations organized in smashing that effort. So it's not that we haven't tried to own lands and have not organized businesses. It's that if you are African in America, or in Latin America, or in the Caribbean, or in the continent, you will be hunted no matter what you do, because they do not want us to survive and become self-sufficient. And you can say no, but you haven't lived this life. You haven't lived this life.
Listen, to be happy. I'm talking about that. All right. Now, to paraphrase Senator Bradley of New Jersey, the state from which your piece was.
Senator Bradley gets much right when he talks.
He does, and he, among other things, and he's not claiming to be particularly original with the observation, we can't get there unless we go together. I have a terrible feeling that behind me are some people who do not agree.
Senator Bradley of the all-white United States Senate said we can't get there unless we all go there together. Sorry, none of us are where he is. That's number one. Number two, you're making a moral appeal to a country that doesn't have a moral conscience. The question becomes that when white people feel serious and angry and upset about abortion, they come out in the thousands up to the millions to say, this is what we believe about abortion. Where is the white outcry against white racism that murders African people all around this entire globe? It doesn't exist. So who are these white good people? I want to meet them. I want to see them. I feel it's not enough.
But that might be all we can get.
No. And guess what? I don't work with all I can get. What I work with is what I have. Listen, you have to have some confidence in the power of African people amongst ourselves to establish a foundation.
We have.
We haven't. We have utter chaos in our cities, and you've got to do that. You can have a program. I'm not saying we built a lot of institutions, and those institutions have not been effective. The majority of millions of African youth in this country are dying mentally, dying spiritually, dying emotionally, dying academically. And you may have a program, Mr. Brown may have a program, but what we got to talk about is an American government that tracks millions of African people who don't go to your program, don't go to Brown's program. Millions of African people, not only here, but all around the world. And if we are not honest enough to say who are our friends, who are our enemies, to know what a friend is, to know what an enemy is, we will constantly be trying to get into people's parties, to shake our butts with them, to get them to like us. And that's not the question. The question is, what can we build amongst ourselves to secure ourselves from our enemies so that we will be able to survive into the future?
Mayor Kelly.
It's enough to know that if I walk out Washington, D.C. tonight, some black kid in Washington, D.C. is blowing up another black kid's head for a pair of sneakers because the institutions that we're talking about, not the things that we hold up to say, look, this is one example. The institutions that we're talking about are not saving the minds of those African children. That is the honest truth. None of these Negroes saved me. None of these Negroes. None of them. Listen, you know who saved me? A man named John Desane in Inglewood, New Jersey, who told me who I was, who showed me my history, who told me who my enemies were, who let me know that this was not an easy world, who let me know that this was a cold environment, who let me know that what he's not a part of is dilly-dallying with the minds of African children and letting them know what the real situation is in America.